from Columbia in high definition. This is WIS News 10 Awareness.
Thank you for joining us for Awareness. I'm your host, Megan Norman. On this Father's Day, we're celebrating the men who take the title of father seriously. Men who don't just look at the role as a job, but an honor to positively influence the lives of a new generation. One dictionary definition of a father is to assume as one's own, to take the responsibility of. The men who join me this morning represent a spectrum of fatherhood. We have Greg Lewis, who works at Fort Jackson's Army Community Service and Family Advocacy Department, Charles Brown, the Assistant Director of the Midlands Fatherhood Coalition, Lorenzo Harris, who's currently participating in the Fatherhood Coalition, and Reverend Andre Barnes, father and pastor of Mount Hermon Baptist Church in Bishopville. Thank you, gentlemen, for being with us this morning.
Thanks for having me.
And welcome to our man cave of sorts. Do you like it? Are you comfortable?
Love it.
Sports theme, music going on.
You forgot my Kool-Aid and my Mason jar.
I know, just get some snacks and we're good to go. Well, we had a women's dialogue a few weeks ago, so now it's time to bring in the men, and I thought Father's Day was a great time to do so, to talk about what is a father. So in your eyes, what constitutes being a father?
A father is an active male, a provider, someone who's present in a child's life. I know for me, I was raised by my stepfather, and I met my biological father. And I don't even like to use the term stepfather. He was there since I was 2 years old. But I was raised by my stepfather, but I met my biological father at 35. And it was good to see where I came from. But he could never take the place of my stepfather.
Right.
But he and I, we both have, good relationships now. And, and it's growing. But as fathering, it came from my stepfather, per se.
So who do you call father? Who do you consider your father?
Believe it or not, I call both of them dad.
Yeah.
And it was easy to call him dad. The one thing I believe is that you give honor where honor is due. Even the Bible tells us that you honor the mother and father. Didn't say for a reason, but for the fact that he gave me life. I still honor him.
It's powerful, man.
Right, and no matter the mistakes that are made, because we're not perfect, mistakes are going to be made. So do you think part of it is maybe starting to admit some of those mistakes and working through them?
I mean, absolutely. My energy about coming on here was that we wouldn't present a picture of fatherhood as the perfection. Even as a pastor, a presenter, the pain and the struggles, the mistakes that I've made, in trying to be the best father, growing up, dealing with abuse, growing up without a father, and trying to make sure I protected my kids. In some places, I overprotected. And in that, you had to learn to repent. You had to learn to bring them along and let your children teach you how to pastor or father them, I notice I said pastor and father because even in being the pastor, sometimes you let church folk mess you up so bad to where your kids can't even grow and expand and be them individual selves because you're trying to impress somebody that really don't give a care. They just want to find fault with whatever they can find fault with. So.
Now, Greg, what is an active father to you? How do you try to exhibit that?
Well, for me, an active father is one who gives guidance, he gives direction, he leads, and he sets an example, something that I never had. So I think that for me to be a part of this program, for me to have been involved with the Midlands Fatherhood Coalition and the things that I do all around the world every day as far as fathers goes, is an honor for me because I didn't have a father. So it's been rather hard for me because I didn't have that example. I didn't have that mentor in front of me as a dad to show me how to be a father. There's no rule book, there's no guidebook, there's nothing, no manual for you to go by. So for me, it's been kind of difficult to do what I think a father should do, but I have learned from people in the Midlands Fatherhood Coalition and other dads throughout my lifetime that I have known. To sum all that up, a father is a man who provides guidance and leadership for his children and his family. Yes.
Now, Charles, you've been on Awareness before, and you represent Midlands Fatherhood Coalition. For those who aren't aware, what is your mission? How do you help fathers?
Our mission is, number one, to reduce poverty through father engagement. Now, we work with fathers to get them actively involved in the lives of their children, and that goal is to help him reduce some of those barriers in his life that keeps him away from his children. And that could be relationship issues, it could be a criminal background, education, whatever those obstacles and barriers are, we attack those barriers, we address them, and we put goals and objectives in place to address them so he can be actively involved in the lives of his children.
Right. Do you find that there is a cycle that's out there that if, if your father wasn't around or wasn't involved, then you sort of accept that mentality and you try to continue that? I mean, is that a barrier that you run into with the fathers you deal with?
That's definitely a barrier. Oftentimes you hear us say, how can you father if you've never been fathered? Right. And so what we do, we try to put in place weekly peer support group sessions to where those men understand what it is to be a father, even if you have to father from a distance. Mm-hmm. And so, we try to be those role models, try to do what they need to do to be actively involved in the lives of their children.
Right.
We can't let that be our excuse, though. We can hide behind that only but for so long, because if that's the case, we don't know how to be husbands, we don't know how to be fathers, we don't know how to go to work.
Exactly.
So a whole bunch of stuff we didn't see, at least coming up from where I came up from in Michigan, and my mom's a single parent raising 4 of us by herself. So there's a lot of things I did not see, but instinctively I wanted to be better than what I did not have. Mm-hmm. So you can flip that sometimes, and I'm sure you guys do.
We do.
Because we always have, when your misery becomes your ministry, or your misery becomes a part of your life where you can apply it to the other areas of your life to enhance you. I just wanted to be better than the dad that I didn't know. And when I finally met him, we discovered that he may not be my dad. So that was a complexity. So not only would I provide for my children, what I provide for maybe some other people's children. I think you said accountability and being there, the one that assumes the responsibility. Before I came here, I went to the graduation of a kid that had to come over to the school, alternative school, but he's graduating middle school to go to high school, and his mom just emailed me yesterday saying he spoke very fondly of you. It would be great if you could just surprise him and come by and see him. And my boss gave me permission to go by to see the young man, and just to see his face. I didn't get to speak to him because I, to come here. Just being present,
right?
And
right.
I don't like the term sometimes when we start labeling. Men really don't like titles unless they're big business. So when we start talking about mentoring, it scares people. Mm-hmm. So I call it the ministry of presence. Just being there, it's still mentoring. It just takes some of the slack off of it.
Right. Well, let's kind of continue that. What's the importance of consistency in having that presence of being a father or stepfather?
Mm-hmm. I think it's very important. A father gives they help the kids to overcome. Well, they set limits and boundaries for kids. And I knew growing up, they provide that safety, they provide the support. I knew growing up, for me, my mom, we could kind of get over on my mom, but not my dad. Mm. When he said something, he meant it. But it gave us that safe place to be, because the minute something came up, where we were running to dad. Right. So we wanted dad to cover us. I know for me, I've got a 17-year-old that he's 18 now. He calls me dad. He's not my biological child, but I've been around him since he was 2 years old. And he calls me every day. He calls me more than my biological kids. Mm. And we talk, and his mom says when you don't talk to him, or when you have a time that you don't talk to him, he gets confused. Wow. So I know it's important just to be present, even if you're not biological. It's important to be present and just take on 2 or 3. Just call them, check on them.
Speaking of that, my son actually went through a phase. I don't know if any of you have experienced it. My baby's 25. But my son went through a phase in 9th, 10th grade school year, where he was almost apologetic for having a dad. That don't sound right? Mm-hmm. He started trying to be something he wasn't. He started trying to be hard, started trying to sag, started trying to do that. He was a ball player. Because it was not the norm around his peers, which he didn't know. His peers would kill to have a dad. Mm-hmm. So when I'm working with him on his shot in the gym, and why you got me shooting like a white boy? That's what he said. One day I said, well, it's going to pay for you to go to school. But then when he didn't like it per se, because I was disciplining him in repetition, then when his friends come back and say, Mr. Barnes, will you help us with our shots? Then I became cool dad. So now it's okay for him to say that's my dad. Mm-hmm. Because up until then, he was daddy's boy. He's my only son. Mm-hmm. So, I think that's some things that our kids run into nowadays. To have a dad active in their lives, there's a challenge sometimes, because you're fighting against forces that kind of reduce us, try to attempt to reduce men, fathers, to nothing. So you have to be a father on purpose.
And a lot of times, it kind of goes back to something you said earlier. A lot of the men that we serve lack the motivation. Mm. Not that they can't be good fathers, but they don't have the motivation to really push to be involved, or they get so tired of the systems, quote unquote, keep knocking them until they just give up and raise their hand. Right. Now, their lifestyle often don't change, because a lot of times they are still supported by a woman, girlfriend, mama, somebody. Their lifestyle don't change, but But when we motivate them that, no, we want to take out all of those other entities. We want you to be able to stand on your own 2 feet, do what you need to do so you can be what you need to be in the lives of your children.
Well, we are just getting started here. I love the dialogue, so stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Awareness. Let's jump right back in. Let's talk about some of the stereotypes. A lot of times when people think about black fathers, they say, well, maybe they're just not in the household, or maybe they're not as involved. Now, a recent study by the CDC showed that black dads are more involved with their kids on a daily basis than dads from other racial groups.
Wow.
Yes.
More involved in their kids' lives on a daily basis than other racial groups. That is something we don't hear.
Exactly.
That's something that's not ever really highlighted. Right. And Charles, you can probably speak best to this in your work.
I was just sharing in the green room when we were at the Black Male Summit at the Black Expo. And you kept hearing there are more women here, there are more individuals here than the population we need to reach, until someone said they want all the men and boys to stand up. And once they stood up, they dominated the population that was there. Oftentimes we hear the negative things, that they're not here, that they're not doing what they're supposed to do, but they're actually present, just as this report, which I heard about a couple months ago. One of the stereotypes that with the Fatherhood Coalition, if you ever want to ruffle our feathers, is to hear the word deadbeat. And we are sure that there are probably some individuals out there who are capable of taking care of their children that just won't. But we believe that most of our fathers are dead broke. They
Poverty.
Yeah, poverty. And so we have some things. We are looking to open an office in Aiken, and we did an article with the newspaper there. And the word never came up, but when the article was printed, it says program is opening to work with deadbeat fathers. And it took me a couple of days to get over that, because that's not what we want to put out there.
Right.
We're working with men who want to be involved. They have so many obstacles, and we don't make excuses for them, but the stereotypes is that most of these men who are not involved with their children don't want to be involved with the custodial parent, and so they just feel that they're running away from their issues as opposed to stepping up to the plate.
Well, you talk about the custodial parent. Let's talk about women, and let's bring them into the mix.
Wow.
Sure.
And
we were just talking about it off air, but the reality of it is you have to have a relationship with the father and the mother as not to use the child as a pawn. You know, sometimes, you know, the old song, my milkshake brings all the boys to the yard, whatever. So your milkshake can bring the boy to the yard, but don't guarantee to keep him there.
That's right.
And so if you get the child, you know, together in this, proven by, you know, DNA and what have you, what I've discovered is when the man doesn't want the woman, there's been a piece of it to say you don't want your child. So the child grows up with this hostility, hearing you're no good, just like your daddy, just like your daddy. Well, if I'm no good, and my daddy's no good, Mama, what's wrong with you? You understand? Yeah. So there's two sides to the story. And sometimes I keep my child away from you, or the child is kept away from us because we may candidly tell the other side of the story. And we don't want that to get out. So I think Lorenzo said something about, you know, what was the term you used about Coalition for Women?
Getting women involved.
Yeah, I think
more.
that there needs to be a program that helps the women to get involved. You know, of course the women, and I'll say it like this, they bear the burden of raising the child.
Yes.
Financially, their time, there's not an option for them to go back home and be with mom, you know, so we understand that part. But I believe that there has to be a medium where the man and the woman can come together, maybe with a third party there to help mediate, so to speak, to where the relationship for the child is a healthy relationship. You know, at the end of the day, the kids don't care about why you broke up. The kids don't care about the child support. They don't care about that. They care about, I want to see my daddy. And sometimes the negative information even around them forces them to suppress how they really feel, because they can't talk to the parent that has them about it. So
and then they act out.
Then they act out, exactly.
Someone once wrote, I don't remember who it was, that one of the greatest things a father can do for his child is to love his mother. And a lot of people bypass that. A lot of people don't recognize that or don't understand that. If your relationship with the mom is not good, particularly if it's very negative, that's going to reflect. The children are going to see that, whether you live in the household or not. If you have a bad relationship with the mom, it's going to reflect with the relationship with you and the child. And I think that statement that was made, the greatest thing you can do for a child is to love his or her mother, is a very powerful statement. It goes a long way, particularly when we talk about relationship with children. Dads need to set an example. If I have a negative relationship with my child's mother, particularly if it's my son, he's going to learn from me. He's going to learn that my dad didn't get along well with mom. They were always fighting and yelling and this and that. And he's going to think that that's the norm. That's how his life should be.
Right.
And I think that we have a long way to go in learning that and making our young people understand that. Organizations like the Middle Fatherhood Coalition can go a long way in making dads understand. And I think that a lot of dads out here in the city, around the nation, just are not aware of what it is that is involved in being a dad.
Yeah. Right. Well, it seems like it comes down to relationships. And I know we're just getting in the heat of this, but we have to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Awareness on Father's Day. We just ended our last segment talking about relationships and the importance of modeling a good relationship with the mother of your children so that the children have that good example. Why is that still so important, Charles?
It is ever so important because, again, children tend to do what they see you do and not do what you say do. So when it comes to relationships, oftentimes what we find in the Middle Fatherhood Coalition, a lot of children are born not out of a strong, steady relationship. It's usually out of a sexual relationship. And out of a sexual relationship, now we expect to be two perfect parents and raise the perfect child.
That's good.
It's probably not going to happen. So now you have to step in and give some skills, and that's where we're on the intervention side as far as prevention. So we have to come in after the issue is already here and say, hey, look, this is what you need to do. This is how you need to handle her. This is how you need to address the custodial parents. So dealing with that on the front end would be better, but unfortunately we're on the intervention side, so we have to kind of go back in afterwards and deal with some of those relationship issues.
I think that the relationship word in general is very important in this whole fatherhood issue. Not only should the father have a relationship with the mom, but you have to have that relationship with the child as well. I talk to dads a lot about, okay, have you talked to your son about the significance of a firm handshake?
Yeah.
Has he learned that from his father? Have you taught your daughter about the men out there in the world who are waiting to trample over her emotions? This is something that I think dads should do with their children, in enhancing their relationship, not just to go out and throw a football or not just to take the daughter to Walmart, but let's talk to her about things that are going to be significant in her life.
Yeah, but
things that she should learn from you as a dad.
You can't minimize throwing the football.
Well, no.
You can't minimize taking her to Walmart.
Well, no, of course not.
Or the McDonald's. I think one thing when we start talking about relationship is the ability to relate. And if I don't have the ability to relate, that's not a relationship, that's a situation.
Right.
And we often get situations mixed up with relationships.
Right.
Yes.
And so what we talking about, oh, we had a relationship. No, you had a situation.
Absolutely.
Because you never got the clarity on where you were going with the situation in the first place. And I think that's very important. Because a lot of us fall out over situations, but they're not relationships.
Absolutely.
Well, how do you make the best of the situation?
That's where the coalitions come in, the mentorship for the men and the women, parenting classes.
Yes,
you know,
absolutely.
this is a generation, my mom and them didn't need it because we had a community of people that helped raise us, but they need parenting classes. I was just speaking to the school board the other day, and I suggested, you know, even in the intervention phase, because that's what phase we are in as a nation.
Yes.
That's with our children, that's with the parents, that's with the school board, that's with everybody. We're in that phase. You got prevention, that's beforehand. You got treatment, that's you drug them. You got security, you lock them up. But intervention is the grassroots thing needed.
It is.
And now you need to hire people that you would normally hire because where everybody got the books and theory, they don't know the practicality of making it do it.
But you also need to have the men who want to have this intervention and who are willing to be receptive to it.
You wouldn't believe that we want it. I ain't met a man failing that wants to fail.
But I think the biggest problem with men as a whole is admitting they have a problem.
Exactly.
Because in our own eyes, we're right. You
No,
in our
we
own
don't know
eyes,
how to ask for help.
And we don't know how to ask for help because
Well,
it makes us appear to be weak.
I've always felt like, you know, you're going to be hard pressed to get a dad to say, well, I need help being a dad. I need somebody to show me how to be a dad. I mean, yeah, they may need it, but to stand up and say that, men are hard. We're not going to be reluctant to say, okay, I need a little help doing this.
And if I can interject that, one of the things we do is even harder, but when you have your peers who are willing to stand with you, that's why with the coalition that we work with, we have what we call peer support. We don't want the staff who may not be in your situation standing before them. We have the peer support group sessions where your peers are able to tell you, look, I understand because I'm dealing with the exact same
That's
thing.
what's good.
So
That's
it's more effective.
And it makes it safer. It sounds like a safer environment.
Exactly.
And it can't be, it can't necessarily be at a church. It got to be in an auditorium. It got to be in a neutral spot.
A neutral
Because I
spot.
don't want you to over-inundate me even though I'm a man of faith. There's some things I just need to get down about. I don't want to
Right.
talk with the church boys and we just quoting the scripture. No,
No, we
man.
gotta be real.
I'm trying
We
to
gotta
be
be real.
effective. I'm trying to,
Absolutely.
raise my child. I'm trying to, nurture my 28-year-old that I just met in January.
Right.
No, literally. Didn't even know she existed.
Wow.
She found
Wow.
me. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes,
So I don't want no church talk right now. How do I touch this daughter who ain't bitter toward me? She's not bitter toward me and not bitter toward her mom. You understand?
That's
But
awesome.
open armly come to you, and what do you do? Because I can't go back and make up 28 years.
Exactly.
But you can be a
But
father
I can be
moving
present
forward.
right now. Yes,
Absolutely.
yeah, and that's what we
Absolutely.
do. So, this is real to me. So when you call me, remember I mentioned it to you, I was like, wow, the ones I raised, but I didn't get to raise this child.
I
But
think
she's still open.
It's
still
beautiful
loving.
that even as adults, we're still our parents' kids.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
When you're around, you're still a
Isn't
kid. So she's 28, but
Isn't that
she's still your
something?
child.
Isn't that
She's
something?
still your baby.
Yeah,
you
man,
know,
thanks
so
for
that's
sharing
awesome.
it, man. That's
Well,
beautiful.
I just
man.
want to thank all of you so much for being with us this morning. A lot of great insight, and I want to be able to continue this dialogue at a later date. So thank you all so much for being
Thank
with
you.
us.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for having us,
Thank you for
baby.
having us.
Appreciate you.
We'll be right back. As we wrap up, let's talk about the perfect Father's Day gift for each one of you. Lorenzo,
Need a black leather bag.
a black leather bag.
Black leather bag.
Okay,
yes.
practical
Tote bag.
purpose.
Just a tote bag to
Okay.
carry small books and stuff in.
Charles,
Practical gift for me would be a gas card.
we all need that.
That's right.
Need another pair of Nike tennis shoes. I'm working out trying to get some of this weight off me.
All right.
I need a gas card equal to the price of an airline ticket.
To last you a while, to really get you
Last me a while,
around.
yes.
Great Father's Day gifts. Well, again, great conversation. Thank you all so much for being with us. Until next time, I'm Megan Norman. This is Awareness.